Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth and final webinar in NEHA's Emerging Trends in Food Safety webinar series. Today's discussion is on technology and food safety education going virtual. My name is Laura Wilde, and I am the Senior Program Analyst in Food Safety for the National Environmental Health Association. I'm joined by Taryn Laird, NEHA's Public Health Communications Specialist, and it is our pleasure to facilitate today's webinar. Please note this webinar is being recorded. If you are not okay with it being recorded, you may disconnect at this time. In celebration of National Food Safety Education Month, we decided to provide free educational webinars on emerging trends in food safety. We are so pleased that you are joining us for the final webinar in the series. And if you've missed any of the previous webinars, please note that they can be viewed on NEHA's Food Safety Education Month webpage. NEHA credential holders can self-report 1 hour of continuing education for each webinar viewed in the self-reporting feature of My NEHA. We are also collecting any last-minute nominations for Food Safety Heroes. We are highlighting the outstanding work of our food safety professionals via our Food Safety Heroes blog. To recognize a food safety hero for their dedication and passion for what they do, please tell us about them and we will shout their praises via our Food Safety Heroes blog. We'll put these links in the chat for your convenience. This webinar is proudly hosted by the National Environmental Health Association. There are countless benefits to becoming a NEHA member. Connect with your peers, network, and get access to valuable resources and educational materials. We stand by our environmental health professionals who work so diligently towards a healthy environment for all. If you are not already a member of NEHA, you can check out our website at neha.org to learn more. A bit of housekeeping before we hear from our speakers. All attendees are in listen-only mode. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. Throughout the discussion, you may submit any questions you have in the Q&A box, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as time permits. I'm pleased to introduce our speakers today. Santi, Christl, Cole, Avery, and Charles. These individuals are part of the team that develops and delivers coursework to support the environmental health profession. The bios for each person you will be hearing from today are located on NEHA's Food Safety Education Month webpage. At this point, I'll turn it over to this awesome team. Christl, the mic is yours.
Thanks, Laura, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So, as we've all adjusted to new work situations due to COVID, we've adjusted to new ways of delivering food safety training too. For us and our team here at NEHA, a lot of this is focused on moving from face-to-face to virtual training. And today we're going to talk about how we've used technology in that transfer. Technology, as everyone knows, has a huge impact on food safety. We're able to trace and link together foodborne illness outbreaks. We can track where food came from and where it's going. And we're able to meet and share experiences over online platforms such as this one. That doesn't mean, though, that using technology just happens. Technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used poorly. With some work, it can be used to build knowledge and engagement and make training a success. So first things first, some things are universal when delivering training. And today we're talking about virtual food safety training, which is a complex and varied field. So knowing the answer to these questions before you do anything else is going to help you build a strong virtual course. Regardless of how you're delivering a course, you need to know the basics. Who is attending? Who is your audience? What skill level do they have? How will they apply the knowledge that you hope to impart to them? And that plays right into your learning objectives. Since you are spending some time to transfer the course to online delivery, take some time to look at the course learning objectives and content. Maybe the course content has migrated from its original purpose over the years, or maybe your attendees' needs have changed and an update is needed. And of course, any chance to review your adult learner standards, how you engage adult learners and make them active participants in building their own knowledge is key to a virtual training. So you have a clear understanding of your audience, your learning objectives, and now you want to influence the technology use and how you use it. Have an honest conversation with yourself about what are your virtual capabilities? What are you and your team personally comfortable and able to do? How about the course participants? We've all experienced having an older PC or an older operating system that doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the newer systems, and maybe it's a little bit slower too. Here at NEHA, we've had people take one of our courses on tablets regularly. So we have to make sure that for that course, the material is accessible on a tablet. But if you have a more involved course, maybe you need 2 screens so that they can fully immerse themselves in the activities. Make sure you're aware of that you put that in the course requirements so everybody is on the same page about what is needed to fully participate in your course. It'll alleviate a lot of first day of course delivery pain for both you and the participants. Last but not least is anticipate challenges. And this may seem like a big negative in your great course optimistic building journey, but if you don't anticipate the challenges, doesn't mean they're not going to be there. So prior to setting up your course delivery, especially virtual course delivery, look for challenges, ask people what they've experienced. Think about courses you've taken online, what worked, what didn't work, and how could you alleviate those? So now you've got your course laid out, you know what your audience is, who your audience is, and what the learning objectives are. So now it's time to look at technology. What technology is out there that can help you accomplish what you want to accomplish? And is it achievable? Is it available? And do you have the resources and capabilities to make that work? So one thing, the communication vehicle. How are you going to share course information and communicate to attendees prior to the course or even during the course without triggering a spam alert? That's unfortunately pretty easy to trigger sometimes. So maybe you can have the course information readily available on a web page for the attendees to refer to if they don't receive or can't find or delete their email. Makes it easily available for them to access, refer back to. You know, we all have a lot on our plates right now, and having that central location that they can go to will just alleviate you getting a lot of emails asking the same question over and over again. So then the training platform. Does that training platform do what you really need it to do? For instance, are you going to do assessments? Is that possible within the platform, or do you need to supplement it with additional software? We've tried a variety of different platforms and experienced a variety of different platforms and delivery with working with our various partners. And all of their assessments that are built in are slightly different. At NEHA, we use a combination of Turning Technologies and our LMS for both knowledge checks during the course and assessments. So there's a wide variety of options for that, but it's something to think about as you're choosing a platform. Resources, materials. Is your course resource heavy? How are you going to get out the course materials? You know, everyone I know has limits on their email, how much they can send, how much they can receive. So again, does that web page make sense where you can post information for people to download that need the course? Or does the course require paper, hard copy information? Again, at NEHA, we're doing a little bit of both. We have one course that involves plan review. And while we do electronic plan review, a lot of jurisdictions are doing that now, we also mail out full-size blueprints so the participants can experience working with a blueprint and have that knowledge too. And last but not least, and it's not listed here, is evaluations for the course. They can't be handed out after the course like we used to do, but they can be very easily done during SurveyMonkey. They're a great resource and a way for you to find out how you can improve your course, what's working, what's not working. Maybe something you think is great really isn't landing great. So make sure you do your evaluations. Next is, we're all still human. We are going to go over a lot in this webinar. One thing that is important to keep in mind as your excitement grows about this amazing course you are developing, we are all still human. We all make mistakes. So make it as easy as possible for yourself, other instructors, the participants. If you make it easy, then they can spend their energy learning and they're enjoying learning instead of worrying why their connection isn't working. And while it may seem counterintuitive, virtual course delivery needs a lot more structure and more time built in than in-person delivery. You will come across all sorts of situations that take more time than usual, whether that's due to participants not being able to glance over at their neighbor and see what page they're on because they lost track, or a larger conversation that used to be just a small side conversation turning into something that takes over the whole course group. So build a structure for your course and follow it. Have start and stop times, follow them. Participants are always happy if a course ends a few minutes early, but rarely happy when it goes over the designated stop time. Remember, everybody's busy. Respect their time and organize your class to make the most of the time that they're available for you. Prepare for everything to take longer in Zoom. Our usual rule of thumb here at NEHA is we average a 50% increase in course time from in-person to Zoom. That may seem like a lot, but we make sure that time has additional breaks, a lunch break during each delivery too. And speaking of lunch breaks, make sure you're giving a break every hour or so. We all know Zoom fatigue is real. And best practice for virtual training is generally 6 to 8 participants per instructor. So keep that in mind. The more participants per instructor, it is a lot more work for the instructors. And then back to the challenges. Have a plan for everything. Create a procedure for answering questions. Create a procedure for what happens if your internet goes down and you need your backup instructor to take over. Will you be able to read the chat questions while you're presenting? Or should the participants call out the questions? By building that structure, when something happens that catches you off guard, you've got a plan to go to. I was just on a webinar and the main speaker kept freezing and her audio would go in and out. And while they did fix the issue, eventually it did take a while and probably about 5 minutes that we were left hanging, wondering what was going to go on, if they were going to fix it, if there was a backup. So if you have a plan in place, it just alleviates that. It alleviates a lot of stress and things just move on with your course delivery. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues now. And as they go into more detail about using technology, keep in mind your end goal and how you can put technology to work for you. The quote that's online here is from one of our course participants, and it really, for this course at least, we met what our goals were. This participant has skills that she learned that she can put readily to use in her day-to-day work. She'd enjoyed it, she felt respected, and she learned something, and I don't know that there's much more that we can ask for than that. So first, I'm going to pass it over to Cole to talk about some of the technology we use.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cole Wilson. Work at NEHA and the team working to develop and deliver these courses. And my specialty is working behind the scenes. When we were faced with the challenge of transitioning our courses from live delivery to a virtual format, our first decision was on which platform we wanted to host our courses on. There are many virtual conferencing platforms out there, all with various features, tools, bells, and whistles. We ended up going with Zoom for several reasons. The first is that it's familiar. Early on in COVID, Zoom became a staple in many of our lives as we looked for ways to communicate with our friends and family in a socially distanced way. This led us to our second consideration, ease of use. Zoom is rather user-friendly and has an intuitive interface. Most of our participants have been using Zoom at home, and the transition to using it in a classroom setting has been relatively smooth for most. After choosing the platform, we had to make sure we knew how to use it better than any of our instructors or participants, from basic features such as muting and unmuting to more advanced features such as setting up and automating breakout rooms. We spent several weeks working in the system, testing features, and troubleshooting various problems we expected might arise during trainings. We wanted to make sure we knew every possible way the presentation could look from the participant's point of view, whether they're using one monitor, two, or even participating using a tablet. As I mentioned, Zoom was our first choice as a platform because it also offered a variety of tools that were not available on other services at the time. Number one of those being breakout rooms. The ability to send our students away from the large classroom into smaller, more personal learning spaces has proved invaluable across all of the courses we offer. Zoom also works seamlessly with all of the additional software we use in our classrooms. We utilize PowerPoint for our presentations and a service called Turning Point for polling throughout our courses. In our live courses, we used little remote control clickers that were handed out to our participants. In the online environment, we're able to use the same service, but the participants use their cell phones to vote now instead, and all of the results are collected in real time and presented on the screen in front of them. The last feature that we have found to be incredibly useful in creating a smooth flowing presentation is the ability to share a screen and then give control of that presentation to another. We're actually using that technology right now during this webinar. This allows us to run the entire course off of one computer and control is passed amongst the presenters. By doing this, the instructors are not bothered by pulling up slides or managing the polling software. They are simply handed the reins when it's their turn. Finally, another thing that we found has been very helpful for us is a tool not even involved in the software itself, but that's a group cell phone chat between the entire instructional team. This gives us a way to speak behind the scenes and discuss any issues or thoughts without bringing them to the attention of the class. Furthermore, should any one of us have a connection issue or if Zoom fails, we still have a way to communicate and organize outside of Zoom. Another of our goals in converting these courses was to take as much of the digital burden off of our instructors. We want them to focus on what they do best, and that is teaching. We don't want their attention divided while they try and navigate this new environment. To make sure all of our instructors are looking and sounding their best, we created training kits that were provided to our entire team. These kits included laptops, microphones, cameras, ring lights, and detailed instructions on Zoom and its features. Having all of our instructors working with similar equipment allowed us to quickly and easily diagnose any technical issues and train them all together on the features they would be using during course deliveries. We held several training sessions with our team before our first delivery to make sure all of the instructors were familiar with their new equipment and with the features they would be using. Some instructors did require more coaching than others, but we were able to create Zoom wizards even from our most technologically adverse team members. Similar to the instructors, all of our course participants are now mailed kits of materials that they will use during the course. These kits included the materials they would normally receive in a live delivery, including course books, handouts, and course-specific materials such as rulers, blueprints, etc. We also now include digital versions of all the materials as well so that they can quickly be shared electronically. We ship these material kits out about 3 weeks before each course begins to allow us enough time to confirm delivery and resend before the course begins if necessary. Once all of that other work has been completed, it is time to deliver the class. We developed a new role to oversee the behind the scenes happenings, and that is the participant manager. They are responsible for keeping all the plates spinning that compose an online course. First, the participant manager is running 2 computers. One is the display computer. This computer is running the PowerPoint presentations and any other software involved in the presentation, such as Turning Point. This computer is dedicated to this task and has no other programs running to avoid any expected pop-ups, notifications, or noises. This is the computer that the instructors receive control of when it is their turn to present. The second computer is the participant manager computer. This computer is where the PM hosts the Zoom meeting. From here, they admit participants to the classroom, take attendance, rename, assign and create breakout groups. They also monitor the participants to ensure their mics are muted and their cameras are on. They're also responsible for sending out messages when presenters are running over time. The PM is also watching the presentations, keeping an eye out for potential issues such as unstable connections from instructors, in which case it is their responsibility to communicate with the backup and have them prepped to step in. Internet connections are always a concern for us when delivering virtually, which is why we like to have our host PM in our physical offices where they can ensure they have the most reliable internet connection possible. Additionally, there's another staff member on call with a backup display computer ready to step in if necessary. One of the most important pieces we have found in delivering smooth online courses is to be prepared for the unexpected and have a backup plan. Now with that, I will turn this over to my colleague Charles, who is going to walk us through some of the tech used in these courses.
We use prompts to help our students learn what to expect when they're inspecting. This can label clearly shows damage from fire retardant chemicals. But a single photo doesn't tell the whole story. Now we can see the can is damaged too. In real life, this food would not be safe to eat. In class, our students can rotate the can and discover this for themselves, just like in a real inspection. To keep that sense of discovery and tell our students the whole story, we use common e-commerce technology to bring these props to life virtually. First, we place the object on a turntable. Then, we take 72 photos from 24 different angles. We edit and match the photos, and we upload the photos to a site that transforms them into a spin photo. Now, our students can examine objects themselves, just like they would in real life. And that's all there is to it. While there is a bit of an upfront cost, and it does take some time, it's easy to learn and makes your course so much more dynamic.
So that was just a brief 30,000-foot overview of how we're using product photography to help make our courses a little bit more dynamic. I did want to throw in a few other things that we've done, but before that, I do want to mention too that really the person who got us off the ground with using the product photography is actually the person you'll be hearing from next, Santiago. You know, he was in here during the lockdowns taking these product photos, and that made a big difference in getting us all set up. I wasn't working at NEHA yet. I was doing VR photos for a different organization at the time, which is another tool that you can use, but that's for another webinar on a different day. The other two things I wanted to mention really quickly are that, like many of you, we show videos in our courses, and sometimes our videos are a little older, and sometimes the quality can be a little And when you're delivering on Zoom and you can't necessarily rely on that video connection, we found that captions are a great way of helping to bridge some of those gaps. Plus, that means that if we do have any learners in our courses who do need the captions, then we already have them there. And in much the same way with the PDFs, for example, Christl earlier mentioned PDFs in the plan review courses. One of the things that we've done is we've taken those plan reviews and those menus and all those other handouts, and we've made them searchable. And that was a big student request. But not only does that make it easier for everyone to use, but it also makes it, again, accessible because it gives the screen readers, for anyone who's vision impaired, something to actually read. And so it's those little things that we can do to help make all of our materials more adapted to the virtual environment. And with that, I will turn it over to Santi, who is going to fill us in on the learning management system.
And Santi, it does appear that you are on mute.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, can find that. So thank you, Charles, for that. I'm going to talk a bit about why we chose the platform that we chose to host like our Zoom webinars and all the live classes and everything all the content that these courses include. And for that, we first chose, there you go. So we chose Moodle as a platform for our courses. It's an e-learning platform. It's open source learning management system, an LMS. That is probably the most used learning management system in the world. It's used by hundreds of millions of learners. And it's a free platform with a huge support from a community, a lot of plugins. So it's a very flexible platform that allows us to add a lot of content and activities, and it's compatible with a lot of different programs like Zoom. So from the get-go, it let us like really use every resource that we wanted that we wanted to use in this course. And Moodle is a platform that is used by big organizations like the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations or the Colorado Department of Education. It's a very big platform with a really huge support. So we didn't really, we chose this one right away because we knew it was going to be perfect for us. And this image is how the platform looks for the users. When they access, they can see all the courses that they are enrolled. So it's very intuitive and easy to use. The way I thought about how to explain how the student interacts with the Moodle platform, I would say that there's three moments. They start interacting with the platform before the class starts, the live classes start, and that's when we use the platform to help them getting ready for everything they need to have for the live class. So when they're getting ready for the class, with Moodle they can they can use Moodle as a starting place. We saw the advantage of having all the resources, Zoom links, and everything in only one place, so they don't have to look for emails or any other things to kind of like figure out our materials. So in that way, with the Moodle platform, with LMS, they can see all the prerequisites, they can complete all the pre-test, because this specific course has a pre-test for them, so we can measure a little bit the knowledge before they get into the course. And also we have some instructions for them, so they can always go there and see if they're ready for the Zoom webinar. Here I'm going to show you a little bit how it looks for a student when they access the course page and they try to read what are the instructions for getting ready for the Zoom class. They can see Cole created like these instructions, so they can see all the steps with the screenshots, and they always have it available in the same place. I think that's a huge advantage for them. When we go into the class, during the class, we have a lot of materials that the students can check. And also one of the key things about this is like they can have their Zoom meeting open at the same time as the site, so they can switch back and forth. And there are specific moments during the class where the students need to complete a test while the class is running. So in that way, we will tell the students to go into the LMS and complete certain activity, and we can also check on them so they can, when they're done, we know when they're done, and we can continue with the class. I'm going to show you a bit how that looks. Charles was showing you in the video how these 360 photos that we take, you're going to see how they interact with them in the LMS. It's a way we found to make those, as Charles was saying, those tactile activities, that translate them into something digital. So students would go into the post-assessment or any of the questions that we build in there, and they have here like the 3D, like the 360 photos, so they can see each one of the products and then answer questions related to them. And yeah, I think we're getting really good feedback about this, and I think it's been very effective. And once the class is completed, well, the good thing about Moodle is like it's a great platform for data collection. So we could really track how the students perform. We can compare their pre-test with their post-test, see where are we, maybe we need to reinforce some of the content, what questions maybe are harder, maybe we need to reformulate something. So we really can get granular data about student responses, how long it took them to take the course, the questions, and really know if the tests as well are built appropriately, with the content that we're teaching them. Here you can see, well, a little bit the back end. This is how it looked for an administrator, and we can check all the attempts, everybody who did a test, and we can see their specific grades. This is just some test accounts. We can go into the test and actually see their answers one by one. We can also go up and we can check, well, specific like responses, like in a downloadable table. We can also get like statistics in general about the course. We can download it as a Excel compatible file. So it's really great for us to track how the students did in the course and what things we can improve. And that's really what there is to know about how we use the LMS. And then I'm gonna continue with Avery, who's gonna tell us a little bit more.
Thanks. Yep, so I will be talking about how all of these pieces come together for our participants and how we ensure that they have a great experience in our courses. So as you can see, every step of the way, we are thinking about what the live delivery looks like for our participants. And considering now that they're taking this course virtually, we have to think a lot about what that looks like in terms of the other responsibilities that they have going on in the background. And with COVID, it's been a lot of responsibilities for environmental health professionals. So thinking about the fact that they're dedicating their time that's stretched thin right now to us, we have to make this experience as engaging as possible so that everyone's really enjoying being on the course. And so I will talk a little bit about those engagement pieces and how we make the course exciting. So we start off by enabling our participants to be engaged in the course by holding what we call tech checks a week before the course, where we make sure that they're comfortable with all of the technology we use. So we run through all of the stuff that Cole has already mentioned. So we go through Turning Point and the learning management system that Santi just discussed, and we talk about all the functionality of Zoom and make sure that everyone's systems are set up so that things are seamless during the course and that they don't have too much technology to too many technology issues to troubleshoot, and instead can just focus on the learning. And the person who conducts the tech checks is the participant manager that Cole brought up. So that's their same point of contact prior to and during the course for any and all technology questions they have. This has been a really key part of our courses. It's so important for the participants to have a live person that they can connect with rather than just an anonymous email address or something of the like. And for example, even with all of these 360 pictures that Charles and Santi showed, the instructions, you could see on the screen, it says that you have to drag to rotate the picture, but sometimes people need help realizing that they don't know how to work the pictures and that's during a assessment that they're taking live during the course. So having someone there immediately to answer their questions is so important so that they can do what's required of them in the course. So meeting this person during the tech checks is really great. They're able to ask questions all week leading up to the course and then all during the course as well. So after we make sure that our participants feel comfortable using the technology to engage, we insert all of our different engagement tactics so that they can interact with each other, with the course, and with the instructors. Some of these engagement tactics include welcoming people when they join. We have theme days and icebreakers, all sorts of little things like that sound pretty simple, but they really do make a difference as far as user experience goes. And a major way we create an engaging experience is having all of our instructors and participants keep their cameras on for the duration of the course. And though some people at first might need some adjusting to that, they don't really want to be on camera all day. In the end, it really is a very important part of making the course more engaging, because we all know at this point the difference between looking at a screen and attending a presentation that just drains your energy versus looking at a screen and it being an energizing experience. You have people looking back at you. You feel like you're actually in a discussion with another live human being. It's another way that we're just trying to replicate an in-person learning environment, seeing everyone in the room at the same time. And cameras on dramatically boosts engagement in a lot of ways. And we work hard to make sure it's a pretty relaxed environment so people feel comfortable eating on camera and it's not a problem. Actually, it's encouraged if their pet or their kid comes in the frame. That always makes it more fun. So as far as all the Zoom features go, I would say we use all of them. We use chat, reactions, breakout rooms. We use chat a lot and encourage participants to save the chat after each day because it helps draw people out who might be less comfortable speaking up or who don't want to interrupt during the instructor's presentation, and they just want to put a question or comment in the chat to be addressed later when there's an opportunity. Additionally, we rely heavily on breakout rooms. We utilize engaging activities in the courses and then conduct them. We insert them in the courses and then conduct them in breakout rooms, and people are with the same group throughout the entire course, which is a really great way to network virtually and develop connections with professionals all across the country. And our instructors really engage with the participants that they have in their breakout groups all week, and they are a resource for them during and after the course. I know people share numbers and emails, and they really stay in touch with this group that they've been working with all week. I also wanted to touch a little bit on the accessibility and flexibility of going virtual and the benefits of it. So most participants now are attending the course from home. And I know at this point, people might miss traveling a little bit, but most of the feedback we've gotten is positive about people attending the course from home. Of course, you have all the comforts of being able to run to the fridge and grab a snack whenever you need, or you have your pet sitting on your desk in front of you. But on top of that, many participants who wouldn't be able to access the course otherwise are now able to do so. Some participants may not have been able to travel, or their departments may not have the funds to send them to the course in person. So the virtual option is more accessible to more people. Also, the fact that we have clear start and stop times is really important so that people can use the rest of their day to tend to whatever responsibilities at work or home they have. I know sometimes people schedule inspections before or after the course. So it really helps in terms of flexibility. And with the feedback we've gotten, it seems that people enjoy and often prefer the virtual option, and they appreciate all the ways in which we make an engaging course. So some testimonials are on this slide just to show that these tactics that we use for engagement really do work. So I can just read through a few here. One person says, I've taken several virtual courses over the last several months. I've not attended any other course where the attendees were so engaged and with the instructors and each other. Another participant said, this was very thorough and interactive. I found myself engaged at all times. And another person says, everyone was comfortable in their own space. The instructors were phenomenal. I would like to sign up for more courses via Zoom as it saves my department housing, travel, food. So all of this to say that if you think about engagement from beginning to end, it really shows, it comes through for the participants, and ultimately it helps with all of your learning and educational goals. And with that, I'll turn it back to Laura for Q&A.
Great, thank you, Avery. And thank you all for your presentations today. What interesting information about taking courses virtual, certainly the world that we're living in now. So I was happy to see some of the successes of the courses, and just learn a little bit about how they're made. So thank you all. I am sure our audience is eager to ask a couple of questions. So as a reminder to our participants, you're in listen only mode, but you can communicate with us and ask your questions in the Q&A box, and we will be happy to answer as many questions as we have time. Let's start with this one. The question is, where can I find the equipment to make one of those spin photos?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there, as I mentioned in the video or hinted at, it is a very common e-commerce technology. You see those kinds of photos on Amazon and in Etsy and all over the place. So you can spend $50 on a kit at a craft store, or you can spend $1,000 for a fancy one that's designed for like hanging complex jewelry. You can find them at photo stores. You can search online. There are a lot of options out there for the turntable itself. And then you can find one that pairs with a camera you already have, like your cell phone camera, or maybe if you have a little fancier camera like we do. So there's a ton of options there.
Great, thanks, Charles. Another question came in. It says, how much do these services cost? And are they easy for people with less technical expertise to learn? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Maybe they're referring
Is that in
to
reference to the
Moodle.
360 technology?
The question is not specific, but maybe you can talk about just general costs about anything that you've come across when you're converting courses or when you're putting on virtual courses. Maybe just give the audience an idea of, is this a really expensive venture or is it manageable and maybe there's a scale?
Well, I think it is kind of like Charles touched on. There's certainly a scale there depending on how much you want to put in it. You will certainly get a little more out of it the more that you invest in it, but you could certainly pull this off with slightly less resources. Like we showed, we went through the effort of getting full-blown computers and sets that we send out to all of our instructors. That's certainly a much more costly option, but it does alleviate some issues. At the same time, you could rely on them using their own personal machines. We have done conferences where one instructor's calling in on an iPad, another's on their cell phone, and similar things like that. It is still absolutely doable. You do just get varying degrees of return on your quality there.
Any other
I would
comments?
also add, as far as learning the new technologies, that I am a firm believer that anyone can learn any of the stuff we discussed today. And Cole mentioned this, we've had to teach other people, participants and instructors about all this functionality, and really it's definitely manageable for everyone. And it's kind of just, on the back end, all you have to do is trying, keep learning, do a lot of test runs, and you'll definitely get the hang of it.
Thanks. Santi, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add about the LMS side of it. One of the great things of Moodle is like it's free. In open source, it can be downloaded and used by anybody for free. There's a great community of support. So even to add activities or add things to it, it's something that, that you have the knowledge, you can really manage it and get a lot of it for no cost at all.
Great, thank you. So it seems like it's pretty user accessible there. There's a lot of different options for people. Another question came in. The question is a statement first. One of the problems I see in presentations is too much information put on a slide so that it becomes overloaded. How much information should be on each slide in a presentation?
I'll take a stab at that one. So generally, I will say a lot of our courses that we've turned to virtual are FDA courses, and we work within their parameters. That said, it's great to cover one topic on each slide and build out from there. We do like to add pictures, as you saw in some of the examples today, and other visually stimulating graphics to make so the slide isn't overwhelming text. Another thing to consider when you are building your slide deck is what you're sharing with your participants. Do they have an access to a participant guide that has a slide deck in it and other supporting material so that what's on the slide can be on the slide and they don't have to fiercely take notes because they already have an example and they can take supporting notes from there. So that's definitely something you want to consider in your materials that you have for the course, is what information is vital, need to know, and what is supporting context, especially like adding real life, real world examples to the text that's on the slide that the attendee can write down if they want to, or they can just enjoy the story.
Thank you. And I've got a couple of questions that came in about using this technology. So it seems that people are really interested to see that NIHA has access to these different platforms and items. And I'll just combine the two questions. Is NIHA's technology available for use? I mean, we have a lot of affiliates out there that are doing conferences that might be interested in using some of this technology. Is anything that we're using available to them? And I know that there's some open source things like Santi mentioned earlier, but maybe one of you can touch on that, because we do want to provide support to our membership, including our affiliates, and just wondering if there's any kind of support that we might be able to provide from our end.
That's a great question, Laura, and whoever asked those questions, please feel free to reach out. I think, Laura, you said our information is on the webpage. Please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to share our knowledge. Unfortunately, with the platforms, it's usually multiple users can't use it because it's one delivery per platform. And we do put on a lot of courses and trainings during the year. But there are other resources that we might be able to help you with, or at least help you walk through setting them up, providing some guidance or what's worked for us, success stories for us. So please feel free to reach out to me and I'll see what I can do to help.
Thanks, Christl. And to note that this webinar is being recorded and it'll be put up on the Food Safety Education Month webpage that NEHA has. I shared that link in the chat. Recordings, the bios will be there, and contact information that you can get a hold of some of this team or any other members and participants on any of our previous webinars. So a note on that, we know that it's challenging out there right now, and we're really recognizing that. So anything we can do to support our members, we'll happily help where we can. I've got another question. It's kind of a question for all of you, and I'd really love to hear what each of you think about this. From your perspective, your area of expertise, if you could give 2 statements of advice or key takeaways from the area that you work in, when you think about developing a virtual course, whether it's conversion or it's building from the ground up, what are 2 words of wisdom you might impart on someone looking to do virtual courses? And anyone can go first, and I'll just let you all kind of chat.
I'll go ahead and start with that. My 2 big takeaways are always practice before you get into it. And that leads into the second one, is always have a contingency plan. There are so many things that can go wrong or happen unexpectedly in an online course that you really need to know the system you're using inside and out, and you need to have a backup plan, because even if you know that system backwards and forwards, something's going to happen you're not prepared for. You need to have another plan around it. The very first delivery we ever did, there was a national outage for Zoom, and 30 minutes before the course, we had to transfer everything over to Teams, come up with a new way to deliver the course, get our entire group of participants communicated to and transferred over. So even when you think you have everything nailed down, the world will throw you a curveball. So you need to have that contingency plan in place.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's the key. Is like, for me, thinking about the user, I'm always putting yourself in the worst case scenario, and how would you take what would you do there? And with the LMS, is a tricky thing because the platform can be a little bit intimidating. There's a lot of information there, so you need to make sure that that is usable, and don't be afraid of maybe duplicate information, or give them several ways of finding what to do, because you need to think that some people might be lost or might struggle. So yeah, so always think about how people are going to find things, and put yourself in their shoes.
And I'd jump off of that too, and keeping in mind who your audience is, what their perspective is, where they're coming from. Whether you're thinking about an analogy or an exercise, thinking about how the folks on the other end are going to interpret that is going to help you be more successful as a communicator. And then 2, when you think about the technology aspect, right, and you're thinking about accessibility, for example, then it's thinking about, okay, what are some of those challenges going to be in accessing the material available that you might be able to bridge those gaps. And so it's really, again, just thinking about who's showing up to your course and how you can help set them up for success.
I agree with everything that's been said, and I'll just go back to how I started the webinar. Start with the basics. Make sure you have clear goals for your course, a clear understanding of your audience, and build that infrastructure in the course. And then everything else is easier to add on to that infrastructure that you've built. But if you don't have a clear idea of the direction and your goal of the course, everything's going to take you a lot longer, and you may end up with the wrong technology that won't support what your true goal is. So just make sure you do that work in the beginning.
And I would say one of the biggest things is just having respect for the end user, the participant, from course development to all the way through to delivery. They are professionals. They are busy. They already have a lot of experience. So not only teaching them, but learning from them too, making sure that respect is just woven through the whole way. And then I would have said practice, but Cole already covered that. So I will say the second one would be, what was it? I just thought of one and I forgot. Respect again.
That's fine, Avery. Thank you. I think we've got just a wealth of responses from you all. So it's really great to hear all of those tips and insider information. Another question came up. What are some resources that might be available to help somebody get started? Where should someone start? They have a course, they want to make it virtual. Where do you go first?
One of the first places that I would look is, what are some of the courses that you've attended and what worked well and what didn't work well, and start to build up that, practice critiquing what you're doing so that you can continue to refine what you do and approach what you're doing with some thoughtfulness and some intentionality.
Thanks, Charles. Any other comments from our team? Any other resources that you might suggest?
I would agree with exactly what Charles said. That's pretty much the exact method we took to it when we started doing this conversion about a year ago. A lot of people were in the same boat as us. Everyone was kind of doing it touch and go. There weren't necessarily a ton of resources to fall back on. And so it was attending courses put on by our colleagues, seeing what they did, seeing what worked, what didn't, picking out the best and throwing away the worst.
I would say also universities have a lot of resources that they've published, guides that they're giving to their professors on how to conduct Zoom courses and make engaging experiences that way. So you might be able to find some good stuff there.
And Laura, we do have a resource that is like an intro to online training guidance, kind of walks through actually a lot of what we talked about today. We can make it available on the webinar. We can give it to you if you want to make it available on the webinar page too.
Be great. We certainly like to link to that for people looking for more information. And Christl's email was put in the chat. So if there's specific questions about that, you can email Christl, and I'm sure she'll be happy to help you how she can. That's all the questions that I see on the board. If anyone has any last minute questions, please enter them in the Q&A. Otherwise, I will go ahead and start doing our closing. But before I do, any final comments from the team? I mean, this has been a really interesting webinar just to see what technology we can use to really hit the ball out of the park, so to speak, on training now that we're in a lot of virtual sessions and we're not meeting in person. Any final closing remarks before I do a little wind up for us? All right, well, okay, I got a comment question. So thank you for your presentation, and I will echo that sentiment. Thank you very much, Santi, Christl, Cole, Avery, Charles, for your time, your valuable insights on today's webinar. And thank you to all the attendees for your time and your participation, and really your dedication to food safety and education. So don't forget to tell us about a food safety hero so we can praise them on our Food Safety Heroes blog. We hope you enjoyed the last couple of days of National Food Safety Education Month. Thank you all so much for your time today. Thank you for all you do, and I hope you stay well.